the Horus Heresy stands as one of the most pivotal moments in the history of the Warhammer 40,000 universe, a time where the very fate of humanity teetered on the brink of annihilation. In this narrative, the Emperor of Mankind, the godlike leader of the Imperium, is left gravely wounded after his final confrontation with Horus, his favored son turned traitor. Yet, what if the Emperor had survived this catastrophic event fully intact, his physical form unbroken and his immense psychic power undiminished? This alternate outcome would fundamentally alter the trajectory of the galaxy and the Imperium itself, shaping a radically different future for humanity. The survival of the Emperor in such a state would begin by fundamentally altering the immediate aftermath of the Siege of Terra. The desperate need for the Golden Throne as a life support system would vanish, as the Emperor, fully conscious and uncrippled, would take direct command of the Imperium's recovery. The destruction wrought by Horus and his traitor legions would still scar the galaxy, but with the Emperor's active presence, the reformation and stabilization of the Imperium would proceed with unmatched efficiency. His unparalleled intellect and charisma would provide a guiding light in the chaos, rallying loyalist forces with renewed vigor. The traitor legions, who fled into the Eye of Terror after Horus's defeat, would find themselves hunted with relentless precision. The Emperor's active psychic abilities, combined with his deep understanding of the warp, would likely allow him to strengthen the boundaries of real space against chaos incursions. Instead of the fractured and often beleaguered state of the post-heresy Imperium, humanity might witness the rise of an era of militant resurgence, with the Emperor leading crusades to purge the taint of chaos from the galaxy. The political structure of the Imperium would undergo profound changes. With the Emperor in control, there would be no need for the High Lords of Terra to take the reins of governance. The decentralized and often self-serving bureaucracy that eventually emerged might never gain the same degree of power. Instead, the Emperor would likely establish a streamlined chain of command, with the Adeptus Administratum, Adeptus Mechanicus, and other institutions functioning under his direct oversight. This level of order could mitigate many of the inefficiencies and corruption that plagued the Imperium in his absence. The Emperor's survival would also profoundly impact the Space Marine legions. Following the Horus Heresy, the Codex Astartes was introduced by Robert Guilliman, dividing the legions into smaller chapters to prevent the concentration of power that had allowed Horus to rebel. If the Emperor had survived, this reformation might not have occurred, as the Emperor, possessing unparalleled authority, would not need to fear the rise of another warlord among his sons. The legions might remain as cohesive forces, further consolidating the military might of the Imperium and allowing for more coordinated campaigns against the galaxy's myriad threats. The Emperor's presence would likely preserve the unity of his surviving primarchs. In the canonical timeline, many of the loyalist primarchs disappeared or died in the centuries following the heresy, leaving the Imperium bereft of their leadership. A fully intact Emperor might have provided the guidance and stability necessary to keep his sons united, channeling their abilities toward the common goal of humanity's survival and prosperity. This unity could lead to a golden age of conquest and expansion, with the primarchs leading the charge under their father's direct command. On the galactic scale, the Emperor's survival would significantly weaken the influence of chaos. As the most powerful psychic presence in the galaxy, the Emperor acts as a bulwark against the predations of the ruinous powers. Fully functional, he could take a far more active role in combating chaos, potentially even striking into the Eye of Terror itself to reclaim lost territories and destroy the traitor legions. The warp itself might become less hostile to humanity under the Emperor's watchful gaze, as his psychic might could reinforce the barriers between the material and immaterial realms. Technological progress within the Imperium would also be affected. In the canonical timeline, the Imperium's stagnation and reverence for ancient technology led to the suppression of innovation. With the Emperor at the helm, his disdain for superstition and his deep understanding of science could reinvigorate humanity's technological advancement. The Adeptus Mechanicus, though steeped in dogma, might be persuaded or commanded to abandon their more obstructive beliefs, accelerating the development of new weapons, ships, and other innovations vital for survival in an unforgiving galaxy. Culturally, the Emperor's survival might prevent the descent of the Imperium into theocratic worship. In the absence of the Emperor's guidance, the ecclesiarchy rose to prominence, transforming the Imperium into a religious state where the Emperor was deified as the God-Emperor of mankind. If the Emperor remained active, he would likely suppress such tendencies, as his vision for humanity was based on rationality and progress, not superstition. The imperial truth, his original doctrine of secular humanism, might endure, fostering a society that values reason and scientific exploration over blind faith. However, the Emperor's survival would not be without challenges. The galaxy remains a hostile place, teeming with Xenos threats, heretical uprisings, and the ever-present menace of chaos. Even the Emperor, as powerful as he is, cannot be everywhere at once. His survival might provoke an even greater response from the Chaos Gods, who would see him as an existential threat to their dominion over the warp. These entities might rally their forces with unprecedented ferocity, seeking to destroy the Emperor before he could realize his ambitions. Moreover, the Emperor's continued presence might strain his relationships with his primarchs and other key figures within the Imperium. While the Emperor is revered as a godlike figure, his methods are often ruthless and utilitarian, and his enigmatic, though not unkind, approach to leadership has been a source of tension in the past. The primarchs, despite their loyalty, are not without their own ambitions and flaws, and the potential for conflict would remain, especially as they grapple with the consequences of the heresy and the new challenges that arise in its aftermath. A fully intact emperor would also have to address the fundamental question of his ultimate goal for humanity. His original vision was to unite humanity under a single banner, abolishing ignorance and superstition, while paving the way for mankind's ascension to its rightful place as the dominant species in the galaxy. With the heresy exposing the fragility of this vision, the Emperor might be forced to reconsider his strategies and adapt his plans to ensure humanity's survival in an increasingly hostile universe. The Emperor's survival fully intact after the Horus Heresy would lead to a cascade of long-term changes that would reverberate throughout the galaxy. As he grappled with the monumental task of rebuilding the Imperium, his influence would be felt across every sphere of human civilization: military, political, cultural, and spiritual. The galaxy might experience an era of unprecedented stability and progress, albeit one not without significant challenges and conflicts. One of the most immediate and dramatic changes would be in the realm of military strategy and execution. With the Emperor's direct leadership, the Imperium's armed forces would become a more unified and efficient war machine. His presence would inspire unparalleled loyalty and morale among the Imperial Guard, the Adeptus Astartes, and other military branches. Unlike the fragmented and often independently operating forces of the canonical Imperium, this alternate future would see a single, cohesive command structure, with the Emperor orchestrating campaigns with surgical precision. The scattered remnants of the traitor legions, harried by the Emperor's relentless pursuit, might be annihilated entirely, depriving chaos of some of its most dangerous tools. The Emperor's active presence would also alter humanity's approach to Xeno species. In the traditional timeline, the Imperium's xenophobia reached fanatical levels, leading to genocidal wars against alien species regardless of their threat level. The Emperor, who understood the nuances of galactic geopolitics, might adopt a more pragmatic approach, focusing on eradicating existential threats like the orcs and tyranids, while potentially coexisting with less hostile species. This could allow humanity to form strategic alliances or exploit Xenos technologies to bolster its own power, providing a critical edge in the endless wars of the galaxy. Economically and technologically, the Imperium would experience a renaissance under the Emperor's guidance. His disdain for superstition and inefficiency would likely lead to a revitalization of scientific inquiry and innovation. The stagnation that characterized the Imperium's development in the canonical timeline would be replaced by a golden age of progress, with new advancements in fields ranging from warp travel to medicine. The Mechanicus, while still reverent of the machine god, would be compelled to abandon their most dogmatic practices, accelerating the rediscovery and development of technologies lost during the Age of Strife. This newfound progress, however, would bring its own set of challenges. The Imperium's reliance on the Emperor's leadership might create a precarious dependency, with humanity's institutions struggling to function without his direct oversight. Should he ever be incapacitated, the repercussions could be catastrophic, as the centralized nature of his rule might leave the Imperium vulnerable to internal strife and external invasion. To mitigate this risk, the Emperor would need to cultivate a robust leadership structure capable of sustaining his vision in his absence, a task complicated by the inherent flaws and ambitions of those who serve him. Culturally, the survival of the Emperor would profoundly reshape the identity of the Imperium. Without the need for the Golden Throne and the subsequent rise of the ecclesiarchy, the Imperium's religious fervor might be significantly diminished. The Emperor, vehemently opposed to the deification of himself or his ideals, would likely take active measures to suppress such tendencies, promoting a return to the secular values of the imperial truth. This could lead to a more rational and enlightened society, though it would also risk alienating those who find solace and purpose in faith. Balancing the needs of a diverse and sprawling population would remain one of the Emperor's most daunting challenges. On the spiritual front, the Emperor's survival would deal a severe blow to the Chaos Gods. His active presence as a psychic anchor would stabilize the warp, diminishing the influence of the ruinous powers and reducing the frequency and intensity of warp storms. The Emperor might even undertake direct assaults into the warp itself, targeting the strongholds of chaos and eradicating its manifestations. Such actions would represent an existential threat to the Chaos Gods, prompting them to respond with unprecedented aggression. The conflict between the Emperor and Chaos would escalate to a scale never before seen, with the fate of the warp itself hanging in the balance. The continued unity of the Primarchs under the Emperor's leadership would be another critical factor in shaping the future of the Imperium. The bonds between the Emperor and his sons, strained by the events of the heresy, would require careful mending. Some Primarchs, such as Guilliman and Sanguinius, had he survived, might wholeheartedly embrace their father's vision, while others, like Russ or the Khan, might chafe against his authority. The Emperor's ability to navigate these dynamics and harness the unique strengths of each Primarch would determine the success of his efforts to rebuild the Imperium. The survival of the Emperor would also present opportunities for more proactive measures against the threats facing humanity. The Necrons, awakening from their eons-long slumber, might be confronted and contained before their forces fully mobilize. The Tyranids, still on the fringes of the galaxy, could be met with preemptive strikes, leveraging the Imperium's renewed strength to blunt their advance. Even the Orcs, whose endless whack pose a constant menace, might be suppressed with greater efficiency, as the Emperor's strategic genius orchestrates decisive campaigns to break their power. Yet, despite these successes, the Emperor would still face the intrinsic challenges of governing an empire as vast and diverse as the Imperium. The sheer scale of the task would test even his unparalleled abilities, as countless worlds and billions of lives each require attention, resources, and protection. Balancing the needs of frontier worlds with those of the core planets, ensuring equitable distribution of resources, and maintaining order across such a sprawling dominion would remain a Herculean undertaking. The Emperor's survival might ensure humanity's continued existence and even its resurgence, but the dream of a truly unified and harmonious galaxy would remain elusive, as the myriad challenges of the grimdark universe persist. In this alternate timeline, the galaxy might be spared the worst excesses of the canonical Imperium. Its oppressive bureaucracy, its stagnant technology, its blind faith, but it would not be a utopia. The survival of the Emperor would undoubtedly create a more stable and powerful Imperium, one capable of withstanding the galaxy's innumerable threats. However, the fundamental nature of the universe, filled with ceaseless conflict and existential peril, would ensure that even under the Emperor's direct rule, the Imperium would remain embroiled in a perpetual struggle for survival. Thus, the survival of the Emperor fully intact after the Horus Heresy would not herald an end to suffering or strife, but it would provide humanity with a fighting chance, a beacon of hope and strength in a galaxy that knows no peace.